Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss is the functional anatomy of the mouth. We know mouth that is also known as the oral cavity. So let us start with the basic structure of mouth. We know the mouth, it is formed by the cheeks, lips, palate, and it encloses teeth, tongue, and the salivary glands. Now, what is the primary function of mouth? Remember, eating and chewing food. So that is correct. The primary function of mouth is eating, but it has also several important functions like speech and breathe. Now let us talk about the salivary glands. Now can you tell me the three pairs of the major salivary glands? Yes, they are the one is the parotid gland, other is submandibular gland, and third is the sublingual gland. So which gland is the largest salivary gland? It's the parotid gland. It's the largest salivary gland. Next, where it is located at the side of face, just below and in the front of ear. Just below and in front of ear. Now, what does parotid gland secrete? They secrete is the saliva through a duct that is known as Stenson duct. Now, can you tell me where this Stenson duct open? So, this duct it open inside the cheek. Against the upper second molar. Against the upper second molar tooth. The second are the submaxillary or the submandibular gland. They are located in the submaxillary triangle that is medial to the mandible. And saliva, what does it has a duct that is known as Vartan duct. So saliva from these glands is emptied into oral cavity by the duct that is the Vartan duct. Now the question is, where does the Vartan duct open? So remember that it opens at the side of frenulum of tongue. Very good. Now the third is the sublingual. The third is the sublingual gland. So this one is the sublingual gland. So which gland is the smallest? It's the sublingual gland that is located in the floor of mouth. Now what is the duct for the sublingual gland? It is the duct of Rivinus. Remember that. So remember, the saliva from these glands it is poured into multiple small ducts. They are duct of Rivinus, and one large duct that is known as partholin duct. So let's move on to the minor salivary glands. Can anyone tell me the name of minor salivary glands? They are lingual mucus gland, lingual serous gland, buccal glands, labial glands, and the palatal glands. The lingual mucous glands, they are located in posterior two-thirds of tongue, and the buccal glands are found between the mucous membrane and the buccinator muscle. Now let us classify the salivary glands based upon the type of secretions. So there are three types of secretion. Remember them. They can be serous, mucus, and the mixed glands. So who can explain what serous gland secretes? So they secrete thin watery saliva, like serous gland, like the parotid gland. They secrete is a thin watery saliva. The mucus gland, they secrete thick viscous saliva with high mucin. And mixed glands like submandibular and sublingual have both the serous and the mucus cells. Now, which gland is the largest? It's the parotid gland. So, Wharton duct is associated with which gland? It's the submandibular gland. So, which type of gland secretes thick viscous saliva? It's the mucus gland. The next question is, what triggers the secretion of saliva? The secretion of saliva, remember, it is triggered by both presence of food in the mouth and by the neural signals that you receive from the brain in response to sight, smell, or thought of food. Now, the salivary glands, remember, they are formed by acinar cells. So each acinar cells they contains a small group of cells surrounding a central globular cavity. So the central cavity, it is continuous with the lumen of the duct system. Therefore, the fine duct, they drain into each acinus, and we call it as intralobular duct. These intralobular duct will join to form interlobular duct, and these interlobular duct will form the main duct of the gland. So this structure is called racemose type. What do you mean that? That means that it resembles like a bunch of grapes. Now let us discuss about the properties and composition of the saliva. On average, remember that 1000 to 1500 ml of saliva is secreted per day, and that is 1 ml per minute. And from the contribution, parotid gland is 25%, mandibular 75%, and sublingual it is the 5%. Now remember, what is the pH of brain saliva from all glands? It is 0.85. Now the specific gravity of saliva, it ranges from 1.002 to 1.012. So saliva, it is hypotonic to plasma. Now let us discuss about the composition of saliva. It contains water, that is 99.5% is the water. Other are the rest is the solids. The organic substances present are the enzymes, the various enzymes present are the amylase, maltase, lingual lipase, lysosomes, phospholipase, carbonic anhydrase, chelicarine. And other organic component, they are mucin, albumin, proline, lactoferrin, IgA. So these are the components of the saliva. The solid include various electrolytes that plays a role in digestion and protection. Now saliva, it has digestive function and it contains key digestive enzymes. What are those? They are salivary amylase, maltase and lingual lipase. These are the key enzymes. So what is the function of salivary amylase? Remember that it helps to digest the cooked or boiled starch into dextrin and maltose. So through the starch, digestion starts in the mouth. The major part occur in the stomach. The maltase present, it convert maltose into glucose. The lingual lipase, it is secreted by the serous gland on the posterior aspect of tongue, and it digests the fats and hydrolyzes the triglycerides into fatty acids and diacyl glycerol. Apart from that, remember saliva, it has cleansing and protective function. So how it keeps the mouth clean? It keeps the mouth clean by its cleansing and protection function. And it has a protective functions like it prevents the bacterial growth and prevent the foreign particles. And it contains enzymes like lysosome. So lysosome will kill bacteria like the staphylococcus, streptococcus and brucella. So which enzyme in the saliva, it has antibacterial property and kill certain bacteria? Your answer would be lysosome. Other important role of saliva is in speech. So saliva will moisten and lubricate the soft part of the mouth. So that is why we can speak effectively. Dry mouth makes speaking difficult. In some pathological condition, saliva may excrete substance not typically present, such as glucose in the diabetes mellitus or excess urea during nephritis. Now remember, how do saliva protect you against toxin like tannins? So saliva has proline rich proteins that has ability to neutralize the toxic substances like tannin, which are present in many foods like the fruits. Apart from that, other organic substances are the mucin, albumin, lactoferrin, IgA. So these are non-protein substances like could be present as well as. Now let us discuss the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So salivary glands, they are supplied by parasympathetic and sympathetic division of the autonomous nervous system. The first we are going to discuss is parasympathetic. So the parasympathetic fibers in the submandibular and the sublingual gland, they originate from this superior salivatory nucleus, that is in the pons. So these preganglionic fiber, they travel through the nervous intermediates of Brisbane, the geniculate ganglion, the motor fiber of the facial nerve, the coda tympani branch of the facial nerve, and lingual branch of the facial nerve, and the lingual branch of the trigeminal nerve, finally reaching the submaxillary ganglion. The postganglionic fibers from this ganglion then supply the submaxillary and submandibular gland. So which nucleus give rise to parasympathetic fiber for submandibular and sublingual gland? It's the superior salivatory nucleus. The parasympathetic fibers to the parotid gland, it is supplied by it arises from the inferior salivatory nucleus. So remember, this is located in the upper medulla oblongata. So the fibers here pass through the tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve, through the tympanic plexus and the lesser petrosal nerve, ending into the otic ganglion. The postganglionic fibers, remember the postganglionic fibers then supply the parotid gland via the auriculotemporal branch of the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve. Now, through which nerve do parasympathetic fibers reach the otic ganglion for the parotid gland? It's the lesser petrosal nerve. So remember, the function of parasympathetic fibers includes stimulating the secretion of large quantity of watery saliva. This happens because the parasympathetic stimulation, it will activate which cells? Acinar cells, and it will dilate blood vessels in the salivary glands, and the neurotransmitter here involved is acetylcholine. Now moving to the sympathetic fibers. The sympathetic preganglionic fibers, they arise from the lateral horn of second thoracic segment of the spinal cord, and they leave the spinal cord through anterior nerve root and end into superior cervical ganglion of the sympathetic chains. The postganglionic fibers from this ganglion, they are distributed to salivary glands through the nerve plexus surrounding the arteries that supply the gland. So from which segment of the spinal cord do the sympathetic preganglion fibers to the salivary glands originate? It's the thoracic segment. Now the function of sympathetic fiber is to secrete the thick mucus rich saliva. So that occurs due to because the sympathetic stimulation, it activates the acinar cells and cause vasoconstriction here. And the neurotransmitter here involved is, remember, it's the noradrenaline. So remember the parasympathetic stimulation, it produces watery saliva, whereas the sympathetic stimulation, it produces thick mucus-rich saliva. So the parasympathetic system, it focuses on producing high volume of the watery saliva that helps you in digestion, while the sympathetic system, it produces less volume but thicker saliva that is rich in the organic component, that is the mucus. So how do these different type of saliva would affect the digestion process? So the watery saliva produced by the parasympathetic stimulation, which will help you to moisten and dissolve the food, that makes it easier to chew and swallow, and it contains enzymes, digestive enzymes, amylase to start break down carbohydrates. Whereas the thick mucus saliva that is produced by the sympathetic stimulation, it helps to protect the mucous membrane and helps in lubricating the food for easier swallow. And it is less involved in initial stages of digestion as compared to the watery saliva. Now remember, saliva secretion, it is regulated by reflex that is mediated by the nervous system. Two types of reflex are there: unconditioned reflex and conditioned reflex. So unconditioned reflex, they are present in inborn since birth, and they don't require any previous experience. So this reflex is triggered when any substance it is placed in mouth that stimulates the nerve ending in the mucous membrane of your oral cavity. So what type of reflex is responsible for salivary secretion when you place food in your mouth? It's the unconditional reflex. The conditional reflex, they are acquired through experience and require prior learning. So these reflexes can be triggered by the stimulus like sight, smell, hearing, or if you thought about food without food being physically that is present in the mouth, that is triggered by this condition. So which type of reflex allows salivation? When you think about your favorite food, it's the conditioned reflex. Now let us discuss about various substances that can affect the salivary secretion. Various substances that can increase saliva secretion like the adrenaline, acetylcholine, pilocarpine drug, physiostigmine, whereas the substances that decrease the saliva production can be ergotamine, atropine, scopolamine. They decrease saliva production. Chloroform, remember anesthetics like chloroform and ether, remember they can initially stimulate the saliva production, but a deep anesthesia, it decreases due to the central inhibition. So which type of drug would you use to decrease the salivary secretion before surgery? You can use is atropine. Now let us discuss about the applied anatomy. The first is hyposalivation. So that means there is a reduction in the secretion of saliva. So it can be temporary or permanent. The temporary could be like dehydration, anxiety or medications. Permanent could be permanent damage like diseases like the Sjogren syndrome. So what is the term we use for reduced salivary secretion? It's the hyposalivation. Other cause of permanent hyposalivation could be sialolithiasis, when there is obstruction of the salivary glands, or due to congenital, when there is congenital absence of the salivary glands, or due to when there is paralysis of the facial nerve. That is term we use is the Bell's palsy. On other hand, if the salivation it increases, the term we use is hypersalivation. So it could be due to during pregnancy, or when there is increase in saliva production. Term we use is salism or sialosis. Now the pathological cause of hypersalivation could be irritation of the nerves ending in the mouth, or could be neurological cause like esophageal diseases, cerebral palsy. What is a dry mouth? That is due to hyposalivation or hypersalivation. It's hypo. The term we use is xerostomia. So absence of salivary secretions. Cause of xerostomia could be dehydration, renal failure. Most common cause Sjogren syndrome, radiotherapy, trauma to the salivary glands or duct, or side effect of drugs like antihistamine, antidepressant, inhibitors, etc. So there would be difficulty in mastication, swallowing, speech. Long you will see the halitosis or the bad breath. When there is excessive saliva, we term is drooling. When drooling, it is seen when the teeth they are erupting in children, or upper respiratory tract infection, tonsillitis, peritonsillar abscess. So what common childhood condition can cause drooling due to difficulty in swallowing? It's the tonsillitis. So other cause of dry mouth is Sjogren syndrome. We discussed that. It is a autoimmune disorder that will target the salivary glands, that leads to their dysfunction and result in hyposalivation that causes dry mouth or the xerostomia. So that would affect speech, swallowing, increased risk of the dental problems like the dental caries can occur. Other important disorder is coda tympani syndrome. So coda tympani syndrome, it is characterized by sweating while eating. So it occurs when the parasympathetic nerve fibers to salivary glands they are severed during the trauma or during the surgery. So there would be the fibers may deviate and join with the nerve fibers supplying the sweat glands that lead to simultaneously saliva secretion and sweat secretion when food is in the mouth. Other is augmented secretion of saliva. It occurs when the nerve supplying the salivary glands they are stimulated twice. The second stimulus causes a large amount of saliva to be secreted than the first. So what is the effect called when a second stimulus causes greater salivary secretion than the first? The term we use is augmented salivary secretion. Other is the mumps. Mumps is a viral infection that is caused due to paramyxovirus that is in the parotid gland. and seen in children who are unvaccinated, and it can occur in adult also. So which virus causes mumps? It's the paramyxovirus.